Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Joe. Today I'm joined by Dylan, aka Chai FPL on Twitter, to have a look at his early Game Week 1 draft for the 2024-25 season. Welcome, Dylan. How are you?
I'm absolutely buzzing, Joe. Thank you for having me on again.
Yeah.
It's great to be back.
Yeah, buzzing. Now, last time I spoke, you were on the cusp of winning it, but
Yeah,
you came close. You came close. We'll look at your career history in a minute, but yeah, you finished well within the top 2,000, and you were in the top. You were hovering around the top 10 when I last spoke to you last year.
that's right. Yeah. Unfortunately, the rank got to my head, and I went down a different chip strategy route,
Okay.
and it kind of went down. Unfortunately, like game week 38 was the first week I was outside the top 1K for 32 weeks, I think, something like
Yeah.
that. So it was a shame to finish with a
Yeah.
four-digit rank, but I can't complain, of course.
No, no. I mean, many other people watching this and think, "Oh, you finished in the top 2K last year, and you're disappointed." But
Yeah.
if only we could be so lucky to be as disappointed. Before we have a look at your career history, I just want to remind people to check out the members area at Fantasy Football Scout. There's a 40% off offer going on at the moment. You can make your own tables, do the season ticker comparison tool, lots of tools and gadgets. Also, do please subscribe, press like, and give us a lovely review wherever you're listening, or leave a lovely complimentary comment on YouTube. If you don't want to leave a complimentary comment, just step away from the keyboard. That's absolutely fine. And Dylan, we're going to be seeing much more of you at Fantasy Football Scout, so viewers and listeners can see much more of you this season, which is good, especially with your recent career history. Okay, so I'll put that up on the screen. Now, evidently, obviously, it's a wonderful comparison to have you next to me because I'm a really old man and you're really young. So this is why my career history is
Good
much
contrast.
longer because because I'm older and you're younger. So your career history started in 2015, and obviously you can see in recent seasons done exceptionally well. So in the last 4 seasons, you finished in the top 2K and the top 5K. Which is absolutely outstanding considering how many managers are doing that. Obviously, in the other seasons, we've spoken about this before, you weren't necessarily looking for overall rank in those seasons there. But yeah, what sort of manager would you describe yourself as, given that you haven't been playing long, but you've got 2 very exceptional finishes in that time?
Yeah, I would say I'm a risk taker for sure. And I know a lot people love that. Um, I I don't use stats particularly, but I'm a big fixture man.
Okay.
Um, if stats are there, I look at them, but I won't use them to pick my decisions, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Can I just get you to sort of move your head up the screen a little bit with your
Okay, yes,
camera,
sure.
just so we don't.
Okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. We got you.
Perfect.
We got you there. Yeah. So, how do you think this season's going to fare? Because this is the first time in 2 or 3 seasons we've had some changes. The prices are much trickier. This is back to my old days when I first started playing, where you couldn't have Ronaldo, Gerrard, Lampard's, everyone you wanted to at exactly the same time for many seasons. And also there's bonus point changes as well. How do you think, and you can carry your transfers, carry 5 transfers and around chips as well. So how do you think those changes are going to impact you?
I think in general it's great for the game. Maybe not necessarily for me in particular, but for everyone. Change. I feel for a game like FPL in particular, where not a lot changes every year. This is probably the biggest changes we've had in a while. But I think 5 transfers won't be actually a big thing for a lot of the engaged managers. There's not many cases the last season. I had more than 2 transfers, so I don't know how beneficial it will actually be. But in theory, it's a good idea,
Yeah.
and way better for the less engaged casual managers, so they can always come back to more transfers.
Yeah, I think.
Um,
Yeah, I was going to say it's good. It's good for those managers and
yeah,
also those that like to plan as well. So it's sort of got something for everyone.
yeah, it's a good addition in my opinion. The bonus points I think is interesting. I would say I like what they done with the shots on target. I think that's very good. And same with the fouls. Initially, I would have assumed that fouls were part of the bonus point system, but I didn't know that they weren't.
Yeah.
So those 2 great. The one I don't like is the one for goals conceded, clean sheet wipeout, as it kind of negates some of the more attacking fullbacks. It gives them less incentive. But then I suppose on the other hand, they are kind of decreased in price. Like we've seen Trent at 7 million this time around, and Trippier is quite cheap as well. Um, but in general, not so bad.
Yeah. While we've been talking, I've just put a slide up on the screen. There's something from Hibbo, who's new to the Scoutcast crew this year, but also been doing lots of articles for Fantasy Football Scout. But he's looked at what fantasy players in fantasy should benefit from the changes. And these changes, as you were saying, attackers should benefit for their shots on target, and also for those winning fouls as well. Meanwhile, poor defenders, -4 on the bonus point system every time they concede a goal. So if they concede 4 goals, but previously this season, sometimes you would get a defender who maybe conceded a goal or two, and they would get pretty good bonus points. Pedro Porro, for example. Yeah. But that should end now. If they concede 3 goals, then it's game over in terms of bonus, as it perhaps should be. But this image that Hibbo's done shows that the likes of Darwin Núñez, Haaland, Salah, Isak, Palmer, Foden, Eze, those who like to take a lot of shots, they should benefit from this. And those like Maddison, João Pedro, who we just found out is not going on tour with Brighton for their tour of Japan, which gets underway soon. But we don't know the reason for that as we are recording, which is Friday around midday. But yeah, Maddison definitely should do well in that metric for winning fouls. Jordan Ayew as well at Crystal Palace. So yeah, there is going to be some changes. It's going to be sort of slightly different mindset with certain players. But yeah, you've already noticed with the pricing that you mentioned some of the sort of potential bargains or potential ones that have been priced sort of fairly now because of this change, like Alexander-Arnold. But we got like Haaland's price tag as well at 15. Now, I remember last season you did well without Haaland, am I correct, last season?
Yeah, we went 30 game weeks without Haaland, which was phenomenal. Whether or not we'll be doing it this season, I think it looks like it, but I'll have to make a draft with him and find out. I think the pricing in general this year has been amazing. I have to say, like, I'm very, very impressed. And we usually slate them, but they've done a very good job this year. You can't make a team with 3 premiums plus without a part of your team having a hole in it. So it's great.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look at Haaland. I was thought it interesting with you because you did so well last season without Haaland, and him being 15 million. I mean, a lot of people will be thinking, well, I'm going to go without Haaland. It's just too much money. I can spread that around. And you're an example of sort of being a season ahead of the game. You've had that season. You know what it's like to go into a game week where Haaland's got an easy home fixture, but you haven't got him. And you look elsewhere.
Yeah, what I say on that is for anyone that is going to go without Haaland, I think you just need to take it on the chin when he does inevitably score a hat-trick. And if you're going to go without him, stick to your guns and do it for 5 to 10 weeks and hopefully over extended block, if you get your captaincy right, that it will make up for him doing so well.
Yeah, I mean, with Palmer, Saka, Foden, Son, all of these players being very expensive, you can't fit them and Salah and Haaland in as you could have done last season. So yeah, I mean, you've got to take you on the chin somewhere. If it's not Haaland, it could be Saka, it could be Foden, it could be Son. Now you're a Spurs fan.
I am.
So what we're doing in each of these team selection videos is to ask those, get that fan's eye view, really. I've done a table for the ones that I'm doing these. So we've had Nottingham Forest with Mark Southerns, Aston Villa with Tom Freeman. That video should be going out at some point soon in the podcast. And also with my one, I'm a Brighton fan. So we had a look at Brighton. But yeah, Spurs time for you. So I've got a table on my screen. So yeah, I mean, overall, last season from a fantasy perspective was quite good. We had quite a lot of players to consider at various points of the season. Porro, Richarlison, Son, Maddison, Kulusevski, Johnson. But the table I got up on the screen for those listening on the podcast version, I've sorted this by minutes per expected goal involvement, and I've included shots on target and fouls won, the new metrics there, and obviously how much they start by. So Richarlison's top in terms of actually sort of shots shot volume and quality of shots. Son is next, not far behind. Then it's Maddison, who wins a whopping 74 fouls. He should do well in that bonus metric. Werner is next. Kulusevski, Johnson, very strong as well. Minutes per shot on target every 123 minutes. Then you've got Sar Porro, very strong, 127 fouls. And quite good for a defender in terms of expected goal involvement. Romero and Destiny Doggy also have included there. They also okay with fouls one. Yeah, so who are you considering? I mean, we'll look at your team reveal in a sec, but not just who's in your team, but just sort of which players are under consideration? Because I'm presuming as a Spurs fan, you have a sort of slight bias as in to get them in.
Yeah, I suppose there is a part of me that because I am a Spurs fan, but then again, like I try to when I do play FPL, I try not to be biased. And I think in general, I think like unbiased fans would say Tottenham are a good goal scoring team, especially under Ange in particular. We like play attacking football. I suppose I'd go through the prices first, which is Son first at 10 million. I think that is a fair price on penalties, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 20, 25 goals this season. You know what I mean? And he does rival the likes of Saka, Palmer, and Foden, but no one talks about him, which
Yeah.
suits me down to the ground because I'm happy to go with him if no one else is. Um, Next is Richarlison, who I actually have in my draft, but he wasn't included in the match day versus Hearts in Scotland. We won 5-1, and it appears that I think he is injured. Ange actually didn't comment on it, not that I saw anyway. So it'll be interesting to see what will happen to him. Again, he is in my team, but this was my first draft, and I will move him on to another 7 million asset, I would say.
Okay.
I think Madison is an interesting one, Joe. What do you think? The
Yeah.
fouls, they're
Yeah.
very big and it will equate to a lot of bonus, but he underperformed last season, in my opinion. And I think we have a big season to come from him.
Yeah, I mean, I really like him. I started last season with him, and he
Yeah,
was
me too.
he was great. I mean, you obviously finished higher than I did, but he was great. Really, and then he got that injury, and when he came back, he wasn't as good as from an FPL perspective, and obviously his form meant that he didn't get into the England side either. So, but yeah, that early season was great. He's really good for bonus, so he's going to be even better now. So he's really good for bonus in terms of the creating chances and shots, and you know when he gets goals and assists. But it's that fouls one as well because he's pretty strong for that. He's, by at least double most of the other Spurs assets here. He's out there. So yeah, I do like him. He was sort of in one of my original drafts, and I don't rule out going for him. 7.5. He's competing against sort of the likes of Anthony Gordon for me, sort of Eze at 7 million. But I do like him, but I like some of the others. I was talking to Mark Sutton's Nottingham Forest fan. He's got an inbuilt love for Johnson.
I was just about to say. So yeah, I think last season Johnson wasn't the best, but I think the expectation inside Tottenham and for Ange in particular, he loves Johnson also, is that Johnson will have a big season this season. 15 to 20 goal contributions, hopefully, or goals maybe. I mean, for 6.5, if he's starting in that front three, I don't think it can go wrong.
No.
And we haven't seen the best of him yet, so I'm interested to see what Johnson can bring to the table also.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think with a player like him, I mean, yes, I mean, I think he should start. I mean, if fit, he should start most games. But if
especially with how the wingers play for Spurs.
Yeah, but if he doesn't, because of the way the wingers play, he's going to be brought on. He's going to get significant minutes, and so if he comes on in the 60th minute against tired legs, that's another potential of a turn. So I kind of like players like that, and especially because as last season showed, the referees are extending the minutes if they feel that time's being wasted, and we can get matches going up to 110 minutes. So I would happily take him. I think. He's been in and out of my sort of draft side, and I may end up starting with him. I do like him a lot.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Man, I'd love to see that because I was thinking about putting him in as well, but I need to wait and see what Tottenham do in terms of preseason.
Yeah.
Whether he does get those minutes in the initial games, and then what happens with Richarlison. Like I wonder, is there a case where Johnson goes up top if Richarlison is out? we have a youngster called Will Lancashire, and apparently, like the journalists are saying that he's been very, very good and impressed Ange. So I don't know. I don't think he will get the initial starts of the season. So if it is going to be someone, it'll be Werner or Johnson. If we
Yeah.
don't sign someone, which I think we will.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, overall, there's lots of options. You've got Richarlison, Son. I mean, Madsen in a more sort of an attacking midfield role. Kulusevski to put in the mix as well. Yeah, and Johnson. You've got a lot of talent there, and it's the fixtures that appeal to me.
Yeah, I
You've
like
got,
those fixtures.
yeah, I mean, Leicester away, great start. Then Everton at home, another great fixture. Newcastle away, that is tough.
That
Arsenal at
is tough.
home though, obviously,
We can score
yeah,
at home. Yeah.
yeah, and it's Arsenal. I mean, I still think even though Arsenal are, higher in the league last season and a better side, they anything goes. It's a derby.
For sure. We've seen over the years, it's probably the best derby in the league as well.
Yeah.
Um, it's going to be a feisty one. I'm actually trying to go over to that game. We'll see what happens.
Oh right, wow, good luck.
Yeah, yeah. Next is a Dogie, who I think is a solid option. Again, he's carrying an injury though,
Yeah.
so he's had surgery. I think it was on his hamstring. Um, and he's still not in the squad yet, so we'll have to wait on him. But I think at 5 million, he's a really good price.
Yeah, I mean these good fixtures go on really. You've got Brentford at game week 5, and then they sort of move up the season ticker in terms of difficulty. Manchester United away, Tottenham attacker, no problem with that.
Yeah.
Brighton away, definitely a good attacker there. West Ham at home, Crystal Palace away, Aston Villa at home. That's tricky, but then Ipswich at home. So it's a really good run of fixtures, and I'm very tempted. I'd be very keen to have at least one Spurs attacker there, and who may go for the duration of all of those first 10, 11 fixtures. Yeah, so we'll have a look at your team in a sec. But before we do that, I just want to talk about Porro a moment. So, how do you think that the bonus point changes? I mean, you alluded to it might hinder him because of the -4s because Spurs conceding, but also, I mean, his shots on target and fouls one aren't as a defender aren't going to be that good either.
Yeah, so I think definitely the bonus point system kind of stings him. Um, we saw no clean sheets for Tottenham last season. Well, very little. But he is on some set pieces and corners, so 5.5 is not the greatest price. If he was 5 million, I think I would be considering him.
Yeah.
I actually had him in one of my later drafts, but it hasn't landed himself back in. If I were to go for someone, I think it would be a Dougie if he's fit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. I mean,
Someone that's not on the list actually is Lucas Bergville for 4.5 million. I
oh,
think this could be a very nice season for him. I'm intrigued to see what happens with him.
okay.
Very excited. He's a center mid from Sweden, and I keep raving and ranting, but he's had a very strong preseason so far. He's impressed, so
Okay.
keep an
Well,
eye on him.
sorry, what's his name again? So that just
Lucas
remind.
Bergville.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's. I think most of these videos do. There's always a name that sort of comes out like that not a lot of people are considering, and that's a great one for us to consider and look out for him in pre-season as well. So I would imagine he's probably quite cheap as well as a centre
Yeah,
midfielder.
4.5.
4.5. Wow.
He won't start every game, but 4.5s don't usually start anyway,
No.
so
No.
he might become an option.
Yeah, as long as he gets sort of some minutes, I feel with a
Yeah.
4.5, that's what you're paying for. I think if you've got a 4.5 guaranteed starter that can score and assist, that they should be 5 million
Yeah.
at least. They probably they just underestimated a player and they become a gem and break the game. Like I think
Will Palmer.
Cole Palmer. Januzaj at Manchester United, I remember being good, great. Sterling
Yeah.
was a 4.5
Garnacho
midfielder.
last year.
Garnacho was very cheap. Yeah, those sorts of players, they will rocket in price. So yeah, one to keep an eye on. Okay, let's have a look at your team. I'll put it up on the screen. And what I'll do is I'll read it out for the benefit of those listening on the podcast, and then we'll start at the back and go through it. So currently for game week 1, this will change, obviously, because we've got lots of weeks and pre-season. But this is a 3-4-3 with Onana in goal, Alexander-Arnold, Munoz from Crystal Palace, and Gvardiol, very strong back line. Mo Salah is your captain away to Ipswich. You've got Eze, Hudson-Odoi and Son Up front, Richarlison, Darwin, and Isak. So a lot of potential there. We'll come to Darwin in a sec. And then on the bench, you've got Turner and Kunku. Presumably he'll come in game week 2. Mikolenko, who does rotate very well with Palace, I believe. And you've also got Johnson, which
Ben Johnson. We'll get onto him as well.
We'll get on to him as well.
Yeah.
So we'll find out a bit about him. So let's go with goalkeepers first. So I personally gone for 2 4.5s. Some people have gone for a 4.5 and a 4.0 from the same team. So they guaranteed a goalkeeper. Ways of guaranteeing a goalkeeper. You have gone for from a heavier weight team, a more expensive goalkeeper. So Onana, could be Pickford in some people's cases. And then backed up by a non-player, Turner. So what's your rationale with that? And do you think that may change as the season starts?
Yeah, Joe, I've had trouble with Munoz and Onana. They are combined 10 million.
Yeah.
And they're the two I've tinkered with the most in this team. But I suppose none of the 5 million or 4.5 million keepers really stand out to me. Like, ideally, I'd want Raya. But I think that's a bit boring and expensive. So the idea with Onana was we've seen that season where United are absolutely useless and De Gea got the Golden Glove. So I just think United are the type of team that will keep the odd clean sheet no matter who they are against, to be honest. They're very surprising. And I know we've seen last season they weren't great. But Onana was the third highest scoring goalkeeper, I think. So it just says a lot about, like, maybe next season if they have even a small bit better season, Onana can rack up some points. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's no Sky game this season, but I had him for most of the season in Sky. He was amazing. I think he may have ended up as the top scorer in that game on that metrics. But in FPL, he was great. I think I had him and I wildcarded him out sort of game week 7. And I think I regretted it because he was surprisingly good. You sort of remember he's quite, as a goalkeeper, you sort of remember the mistakes for some reason more.
Because he likes to do a lot, yeah.
He does more. He seems more involved. He's sort of shouting at the defence. We see he sort of, the mistakes are sort of amplified, and you remember them. But it's all the good things, all the clean sheets, and those amazing saves that he makes.
Yeah.
Sort of get forgotten about it. So yeah, I can definitely see the rationale for that, and it does solve a problem I've got. Say Henderson and Jose Zar from Wolves. As my 0.45s. I've seen Areola, Flecken is another that I've seen in, but I haven't seen Onana yet, and I think others might consider that as they get towards the deadline. I think I just want a reliable, good keeper. Let's have a look at your defence then. So Gvardiol, he's in my tide because I think he'll benefit from the bonus point metrics to some degree. He won't in others, in the likes of Foden will get more bonus probably, but he attacks. Man City can get clean sheets. He could do well in the bonus. He just seems to tick all the boxes.
He's almost playing on the wing. 6 million I think is maybe even low if he is playing on.
I think it is, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but then again, when you compare him at 7 mil where Trent is, there is, you can see why Trent is higher. But yeah, Guardiola, great option. I think City underperformed in terms of actual clean sheets last season. So we could be looking at a season where they do get a good few more. I know, like, a lot of games they conceded in the last minute, just silly goals. So maybe they'll be a bit tighter this season. I suppose next we'll go on to Trent. For me, Joe, he was the first person in my team if I was going with no Haaland. Okay. Yeah. Every season, he's always number 1 on my list. He'll be playing an inverted role for Arne Slot. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of positions he takes up. But I just feel like they gave him a price decrease, and now it makes no sense not to go with him for me. Like, every year, I'm just surprised that people don't start with Trent.
I think at 8 million last year, I was put off. But there were a few times I did have him in my side, and you saw how effective he is because he gets the odd goal.
Yeah.
Pretty much, his link-up play with the likes of Salah can usually result in an assist or 2. And then, of course, with bonus as well. So I'm slightly cautious. I feel with Liverpool's defence, they could concede, and then there's a -4. So there could be a slight drop with Alexander-Arnold for the bonus, which is I guess why he's 7 million, because he had a pretty good season last season.
That's fair. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, but yeah, for 7 million. If it was 8 million, I would have said no way.
yeah,
But 7 million, I'm tempted, which is exactly the right price. At 6 million, he'd just be in my side.
yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I agree.
So Munoz is there. Crystal Palace, and I'm going to lump in Mikalenko as well, because of something that Mark Southern's raised on his video, that Palace and Everton are very good rotation. And Munoz, arguably, you could probably play every week anyway, because he's so attacking for Palace. But yeah, tell us about those two. I mean, does that rotation just come as a surprise or deliberate? And yeah, why spend a bit more Munoz?
Yeah, I just feel like 5 million. Glasner has completely changed the Palace team. As we saw at sorry, particularly at the end of last season, they played very, very well. And Munoz is so attacking. He didn't get many returns, but I just feel like after watching him for a few games, he's definitely one of the more attacking fullbacks in the league. So I feel like 5 million is a fair price. And like you alluded to, yeah, they do rotate quite well. But I'd feel greedy almost, to be honest. I'd almost start Munoz every week,
Yeah.
hoping to get something, unless he's playing one of the bigger teams.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, with that rotation as well, if something happened to him, an injury or a suspension, Mikalenko can come in there. Looking right, so we mentioned Alexander-Arnold, Munoz, Gvardiol, Mikalenko. Your fifth one is Johnson. Ipswich.
Yeah,
so yeah.
I watched a lot of West Ham last season, surprisingly. Don't ask me why. It was terrible to watch.
Yeah.
But Ben Johnson, he is a fullback. He used to play for West Ham and he signed this season for Ipswich.
Yeah.
For games, he was being brought on right wing for West Ham, and he even started a few when I can't remember who it was that was out. But he started a few games, and when he was coming on, I was very surprised that he wasn't starting almost.
Okay.
He's very, very tidy, Joe. I'm telling you. And I was actually talking to FPL fella, and I realized he got a transfer to Ipswich. And immediately I asked how much he was, and he's 4 million. So
Wow.
if he's starting at right wing back, I don't know what system Ipswich play, but if he's starting right wing back, or I don't know if they'll play him right wing, but I think at 4 million, it's worth taking a risk at a player like him, especially when I kept an eye on him last season. So
Yeah, I mean, I think with Ipswich as well, they're one of those teams that we want to monitor in pre-season, finding out who's starting. And as we get towards the end of pre-season, those games before the season starts, we want to see him in the side. 4 million, so that's 1 million cheaper than Leif Davis, who's in a lot of other sides. But because he's very attacking and on the set pieces as well. But it's 1 million cheaper, and you can possibly lock yourself in to them. I guess with him, if the last 2 to 3 games of Ipswich's pre-season, he is just not starting, you would hop on to another 4 million.
yeah, exactly. Then we figure out who is starting, and then like I don't think a 4 million can go wrong. So I have no issue with taking a risk at the start.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I've got, I'm trying to remember his name now, the Southampton guy.
What's his name?
Yeah, whose name will come to me another time. But he used to play for Man City. He's 4 million.
Yeah.
Barco at Brighton. If
I think Barco's a good option, yeah.
And of course, you got Face at Leicester,
Face, yeah.
who'll start. Who's starting for Belgium in the Euros. So you would imagine he'd start as well. So you've got a lot of choice there. You can easily hop off. And what I really like about Johnson there is that that price point there. It makes it just easier in pre-season. So as we said here, if it just transpires he's not going to be an FPL option, you can just hop off. We've already listed about 4 or 5 players that you can hop off on to. So we do have a lot of starting 4 million defenders, which you assume will rocket in price if they do well early on as well. So that's your defence. It's a pretty strong defence.
Yeah, for sure.
Overall, you can see why it's a strong defence. And I'm just going to mention a player that's not in your team at the moment before we look at your midfield, because there's no Haaland in there, and you're used to that last season. So I mean, I guess the way that you play, the way that you're experiencing the game, Haaland, you might get a draft with him in and might have a draft with him out, but I would be confident of you doing well without Haaland more than any others who are not used to that.
So we're screwed if I do poorly this
Yeah,
season.
yeah. If you do poorly without Haaland, there's no chance for everyone
No,
else.
yeah, I think it's more so the structure of the team. You can see what you can do without Haaland. All the defenders get a bump of 1 million. You get the premium ones. Midfielders are all mid to premium,
Yeah,
and then same with your strikers. You don't have like João Pedro. I know a lot of people had him, but
yeah.
for example, I didn't have him in a draft, and that's because some of my money went in at a higher price.
Okay. Yeah. So, no Haaland. It's a good midfield. It's a good defense. It's a good balanced squad, and it's a really good strike force as well. Almost. We'll come to
Yeah,
Darwin in a sec,
we
but
will get into that.
okay. So Salah is in. He is your captain. Liverpool have really strong fixtures. Why is he your captain over, say, for example, Isak, who is at home to a promoted side?
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't really pick my captain yet. I just
Oh, okay.
stuck it on. I saw Ipswich Salah. I was like, all right, that'll do for now. I
Yeah,
won't even think about it yet
yeah.
until close to the date. But yeah, I suppose there is a case of maybe he gets subbed earlier or whatever. Um, Also, a Son away to Leicester is not a bad first fixture as well.
Yeah.
But Southampton home for Isaac is definitely a lovely one. I just don't know. I feel like Newcastle will start the season strong at home, but again, it's Newcastle. They're very unpredictable, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's up for debate still.
Yeah, I suppose one's potential spanner in the works. I mean, I've got triple Newcastle in
Oh,
my
really? Yeah.
first draft. I've got Gordon as well and Dan Burn. Is that Eddie Howe? I presume would be one of the front runners to replace Southgate for England. Obviously, there might be issues with Newcastle not wanting him to go, and also issues that other candidates might be better than him. But if he goes, suddenly, I don't think, obviously, I think Isak is their best striker. He's going to play, but it just suddenly puts a question mark over Newcastle assets when you've got a potential change of manager. It's just something I'm keeping an eye on in pre-season if that gets resolved. But yeah, Isak and Salah, and Son, you've got three good captaincy candidates, which is pretty good for a start. Let's go on to Son then. 10 million. I mean, I haven't gone there. I've got I'll probably go for Johnson if I go for an attacker there just for money. But I am going with Haaland. I don't have your experience of living without him.
Let me tell you, Joe, it's not fun. It is not fun.
No, I've
Wait until Ipswich comes around, you'll
yeah.
be scrambling.
Yeah, well, when I had held Haaland for his injury all through Christmas and New Year, that wasn't fun either. but Son, 10 million, you think that's a fair price with him? I mean, he's getting on a bit.
I do think it's fair. Was he now 31, 32? No, yeah, 10 million is definitely fair. He has another season left, and I think I saw rumors of a extended 1 year contract.
Ooh.
That just tells you like they are sure of Son. Um, so it's all good signs for me, and I'm so surprised that we've not seen anyone have him
No.
in their first team. It was the same last year. I didn't even start the season with Son myself, and 3 games in, I said this is a mistake. I took a -4, I got Son and Alvarez in, and Son scored that hat trick versus Burnley. So this year I said I'll start with Son instead of Madison. But again, a lot will change in my opinion. Depends really on how I think preseason is looking.
Okay. Just a reminder again, those early fixtures they are slightly mixed, but overall very strong. I would say Leicester away, Everton at home, Newcastle, Arsenal is tough, but then Brentford at home, and that's all within the first five. So it's
Yeah.
pretty strong fixtures. You've got Eze there. Now it looks like Mateta's going to be at the Olympics. Elise is already gone. Do you feel that Eze? I mean, ordinarily you would say 7 million. That's a bargain with that strike force that was last season, but that strike force has been torn apart now, especially at the beginning of the season. So, could Eze move? And if so, are there any others in that price range you would think of, or are you pretty locked on Eze?
If Eze moves, I hope he goes to Tottenham. And then
No, I
can have him
meant
at 10
moves from
million.
your side. But
No,
yes, if he does move for Tottenham, you're
I think
fine.
I think 7 million for Eze is a bargain. You're not wrong there, and I think 8.5 million is almost fair for him. He is a very 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 good player, and he's at the focal point of what Palace do, regardless of who they have playing with him. We seen Elise out for a lot of the season last year, and Mateta only came towards the tail end of the season, so. I think Eze can still do it regardless of who he's playing with,
Hmm.
and a lot will go through him.
Okay.
So, I think for sure, I think I'm the same as a lot of people will have Eze.
Okay.
Eze and Isaac seem to be the two that almost every team have.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. I think there's certain players where if you highlight Alexander Arnold. There's certain players where you look at them and you think, they have priced most of them fair, Palmer, Haaland, but there's certain ones you think actually they're a bargain.
Yeah,
And Eze, yeah, I think he's zero point 0.5 million, 1.5 million too cheap. Isak, if Isak was 9.5, I would not have bothered with that. Watkins could have been 10. So I think
for sure.
there's a slight potential bargain quality to a number of the players, of which Hudson Odoi is one as well. Who I would put in my team as one of the. In fact, he is in my team at the moment. But because Gibbs White 6.5 is a million more and on penalties, but Hudson Odoi's got more shots. And when I'm speaking to Mark Southerns about Nottingham Forest, he thinks Hudson Odoi is the one, irrespective of price. He just thinks he's been underpriced by at least a million or so. But presumably he's same as Eze. That's why he's in your side.
Yeah, for me, he comes in at a really good price, and if I could pick one from Forest, it would be Chris Wood if he's starting. I think he's amazing. Last season had some joy with Chris Wood. But yeah, Hudson-Odoi, he likes his signature shot from the corner of the box, and it does very well for him.
Yeah,
So definitely exciting to own. And I think he can reignite his career if he has a decent season
yeah.
this year.
Yeah, they've got Bournemouth at home, Southampton away, Wolves at home, first three, then Liverpool, but then Brighton away, and they have actually done quite well at Brighton in recent years
So
or
the
so.
idea there initially was ideally you have Nkunku for dodge the City fixture and
Yeah,
then bring in Nkunku for
yeah,
and then you have a nice little change of if you don't want a striker, you can go in five at the
yeah,
middle and of
yeah.
course interchanging Nkunku and Adai.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned Chris Wood there. So with João Pedro potentially out for the season, we don't know. I mean, he's just not involved with the Brighton's pre-season tour, Japan. So I don't know why that is. But if it's a problem at the beginning of the season, suddenly we're going to have to look for sort of a third striker. Those that have already got him in, you haven't in your side. Yeah, and Chris Wood would be my top name. I've always put a picture of me encased in a tree on Twitter every time he scores because he's been absolutely marvelous. And when he gets a brace, he's so low owned because he's so unfashionable that you were just going to rocket up the rankings. If you own him and he gets one of his braces, there you go, you're done. You're absolutely sorted.
You're laughing.
So if I potentially will have Chris Wood in my side, but I can't see myself going Chris Wood and Hudson Odoi. But I mean, how would you feel about sort of a double Nottingham Forest attack, or is that a bridge too far?
Yeah, it's definitely a stretch, but
Yeah,
then again, you can see I have Darwin and Richarlison, so I can't tell you anything.
yeah,
But again, we'll get on to that. I'll
yeah,
explain why.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I do think like Chris Wood is really, really nice,
Mm,
and I would go one or the other, just because you don't even know if Chris Wood is going to start or Taiwo
yeah,
Awani
yeah.
or both or so yeah, it really depends on if you go Haaland or Haalandless. There's more of a case to go with a Chris Wood if you have Haaland.
Yeah, well, that's good for me because I probably will start with Haaland.
Yeah.
Up front, oh no, actually, I'm going to mention Nkunku here. So he's on your bench on this one. But for Chelsea's fixtures, I mean, they've got City first off, but then they've got Wolves, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, West Ham, and the fixture run continues. Chelsea then have Brighton and Nottingham Forest both at home in game week 6 and 7. Then Liverpool, Newcastle, Manchester United, and Arsenal. So it gets tough game week 8. But first 7. Apart from that City fixture, really good. So you would envisage Nkunku coming in game week 2 and possibly staying there.
Yeah, definitely underpriced by at least a million.
Okay.
Like he could easily be 7.5 and still good value.
Yeah.
Last season I was very, very excited for Nkunku, in terms of FPL. And of course he got that injury.
Yeah.
But I just feel like last season we seen Palmer break out and he's amazing. But I just feel Nkunku, he's he's at a very good level, and for Leipzig, I think it was, yeah, he was very, very good, and the hype around him when he joined was very high as well. So I think he will be a very, very good player, and a lot will go through him.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's in consideration, and I think for me, it'll be either him or Johnson. So that's a tough choice, a nice choice to have because I think both of them could do well
Yeah.
there. Let's look at your strikers. Isak, we've already mentioned. Um, Fairly evident why he's there. Good opening fixture, good opening fixtures. Southampton, Bournemouth, Tottenham, Wolves, Fulham. That's all in the first five, and then you've got Manchester City, but then Everton and Brighton. So it's a pretty strong early run of fixtures there. The main man up front for Newcastle. So I mean, it's fairly evident why he's there. We got to talk about Darwin. Why is Darwin there?
So I really want the Liverpool's number nine, and I
Okay.
really want Tottenham's number nine for
Okay.
Liverpool's for the fixtures that they start with. I think it's just ridiculous. Um, and they're gonna score lots of goals.
Yeah.
Even with the changeover of manager, I just feel whether it's Jota or Darwin. So it will really depend on pre-season who's getting the
Okay.
minutes. I don't mind if it's Darwin or Jota, even though Jota's a midfielder now, isn't he?
Yeah.
So what I was thinking about doing is moving one of my midfielders to Jota
Okay.
if he is being included more, and change Darwin.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I know last season he caused a lot of people
Yeah.
a world of hurt.
Yeah. Me included.
um, but I just feel like he is a 20 goal season striker. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. Like he just needs something needs to click. He needs more confidence.
Yeah. I mean, with that image I showed of the bonus point system, he and Haaland amongst the biggest beneficiaries of that change of shots on target. Because whilst it feels like he missed a lot, he did miss a lot, but he also got a lot on target aimed at the keeper often. But nevertheless, they were on target, and it's just pure shot volume with
Yeah,
him. It could be that
he gets the
Gakpo.
chances.
Yeah, I was going to say it could be that Gakpo is the main man up front. In which case,
Yeah,
it's even easier for you because they're the same price. So you would just in pre-season just swap Darwin to
that's
Gakpo.
what I mean. So he's more of a filler for the striker for
Okay.
whoever's going to be.
Okay.
Now, I suppose there is an argument that you could have of rotation risk, and that's a fair point.
Yeah. But nevertheless, I think we've seen with Liverpool. I mean, even when I owned Darwin Núñez, it wasn't fun just because, well, it was just the amount of shots that didn't result in a goal. But it was more that I did. One thing I didn't mind about him was him not starting because I did not mind 30 minutes of Darwin. I did not mind 30 minutes of Gakpo or Jota because their side is so attacking.
Yeah, I
And I
remember
think,
last season, earlier in the season, I think Liverpool played Newcastle and Darwin came off the bench for
yeah,
18 to 30 minutes and he got a brace and I actually had him.
yeah, wow.
So I was fairly fortunate.
Yeah. Richarlison is your third striker there. Now, I mean, what is the? I mean, he was great for a period last season for FPL managers, and then he sort of came and it was just this sort of. We weren't sure about an injury. Then the Brazil squad was saying that he was injured, and we didn't get much from Ange. And I'm not sure what we're going to see him in, if anything, of him in pre-season. I
Yeah.
just don't know what's
So
going on
that
with Richarlison.
he's the same situation I just said with Darwin.
Yeah,
He's just filling a slot for me, depending on Spurs' striker.
yeah,
I want Spurs as number nine, whether it's Richarlison, Will Lancashire, it doesn't matter.
yeah.
Whoever it is in that slot, I
Right,
want them.
right.
Um, and it's the same type of story. If we see, I don't know how likely it is. I keep saying it about Johnson going up top. But if Johnson's up top, I will bring in Johnson as a midfielder and
Yeah,
change Richarlison happily.
yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
just think whoever is up top will get a lot of chances. We've seen Richarlison get a lot of chances in the 6 yard box, and that's just the way we set up. We have two fast wingers that swing balls into the 6 yard box, and they're high quality chances. So I
yeah.
feel like having a Spurs as striker for the opening games would be good.
With the new metric of the bonus point system, shots on target and fouls won,
Yeah,
Richarlison should benefit there. Yeah, I mean, you could have the number 9 already with Son there, so
yeah,
it's just something that you've definitely got that covered. But it's good to know that you've definitely got you know an ethos to your team is get those number 9s from those good attacking sides.
yeah. I'll just say I made this before the friendly versus Hearts because I know he wasn't included in
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean that was I mean these early preseason games for these sorts of teams are tough because it's one of those ones where you get one side for 45 minutes, a completely different side for the next 45.
yeah.
It's hard to tell. Overall, though, I mean, it's a Haaland-less squad, which I would expect from you, and it shows what can be done without Haaland. You'll see. We did these. I did these videos last year, and a lot of the teams look the same because we could all have the same players. Everyone has been different. Some have Salah, some have Haaland, some have both, some have neither, and you can do a hell of a lot with your team, whichever strategy you go down, and they will all change. And because of the transfer saved, all the teams are going to be different, and I can't see it. I can't see how a template can emerge. I mean, can you see how a template could emerge this season? It seems too
I
tough.
think if a very, very good value midfielder comes out, then you will be able to get Haaland, Salah, and one of Son, Palmer, or Saka.
Yeah.
I think that could be very strong. I was playing around with it earlier. But yeah, I think it would have to be a very, very good value midfielder.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at that. I mean, I've got Haaland and Salah in my draft, but if there's no way you can add a Saka, a Palmer, or a Foden to that without going for Johnson and some Hail Marys on your bench.
Yeah, pretty much.
4 millions. I just can't see how that's done. So yeah, that's going to be intriguing. So there's so many good, well-priced players. So intriguing. Dylan, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Joe.
Really
Appreciate
good to get your insight. No, thanks a lot for that. These videos will return. This will be in amongst a flurry of team reveal videos taking place over pre-season. We've got lots more on Fantasy Football Scout. Keep you covered, keep you prepared for the season. Dylan, thanks so much for joining me. Minded for everyone, do press that like button, do subscribe, do leave a lovely comment. And if you're not going to leave a lovely comment, just step away from the keyboard. Thanks a lot for your time, Dylan.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Good luck for game week 1.